Do Bananas Chew Gum by Jamie Gilson, Chapter 5, Viking Stuff. Alex stood there like a normal kid, waiting at the kindergarten door. Spider-Man crouched on the windowsill, ready to leap. "Aye!" he yelled, and threw himself straight at my neck. I cleverly stepped to the side, like a proper supervillain would, and Spidey fell flat on the dandelions. He was up in a minute. "The Magnet Men are after us," I told them. "Run like crazy, or they'll yank us back in school." So we ran like crazy all the way to their house. All the time I tried to remember putting the twister paper somewhere else. Sometimes I forget where I put stuff, but this time my pocket was the only place it could have been. I knew I hadn't left it in my desk. Oh well, I thought, who cares? "Today," I said as the boys started stuffing bananas into their mouths, "today we're going to the jungle, and we'll climb a jungle tree. Ta-da! Starting at the top." "Don't you mean the pot?" Alex asked, grinning at me. I bopped him on the head. "That was just a joke," I said, bopping him again, harder. "Don't hit my brother," Chuck shouted, slugging me. "You told us it was a mistake," Alex said, punching me harder than I'd bopped him. "My mom said that was a funny mistake. Funny strange, not funny ha-ha." "You told her?" "Sure, why not?" Alex asked. Why did they have to go and do that? She wouldn't need to be Sherlock Holmes to figure out all those clues. Pretty soon, I thought, they're all going to know, and I'll be Dumbhead Sam again. Being stupid is like having a birthmark. You can hide it, but you've still got it. I ate 3 bananas. "We're going to climb our tree, aren't we?" Chuck asked, shaking my shoulder, "before they come and saw it up and take it away?" I didn't answer him. I just banged out of the kitchen and let the screen door slam. The backyard was filled with tree. Its branches reached all the way to the neighbor's fence, and there were huge hills of leaves. The trunk had been pulled clear out of the ground, and it made you feel sad, like a big dog had died or some wild thing, like a raccoon or a squirrel, had been hit by a car. We started at the top pot, where Chuck found an empty bird's nest, empty except for some blue-green eggshells caught in the twigs. He dug around underneath as far as he could for baby birds, but we decided they'd flown away weeks ago. 2 squirrels playing tag in the lower branches ran away when they saw us coming. Chuck hopped down the branches like a lumberjack riding logs on a river. "Hey, you guys," he yelled. "You're not going to believe this. I found a truck." "A truck?" That was some tornado. I started crawling through the brush to take a look. A jeep? I wondered. A branch flew back and hit me in the face. It was a truck. Chuck was holding it up, a toy yellow earth mover, and its scoop filled with a cupful of dirt. "I bet that tornado sucked it over. It was in the garden last week." "That's cool," Chuck sighed. The tree had pulled up a whole batch of dirt, and now that the rain had stopped, the earth was fine and soft, clinging to all the tiny roots. They were just beginning to droop. The trunk was so big, I couldn't reach around it. It must have been very old. It wasn't fair it should fall and die. Chuck slithered into the hole where the roots had been, tearing a path with his sneakers. It was almost 3 feet deep. It's a spooky cave," Alex said, pushing his way down too. "There are black bugs down here," Chuck called. "This one's friendly, look." I lay down on the trunk of the tree and reached into the finest of the roots. They looked soft like moss. I knew tree roots were supposed to drink in water. I wondered if they were wet. The ones on top were dry, so I stuck my hand further into the middle. I didn't strike water. I struck metal. "Hey, I found something," I called, and the boys scrambled through the hairy brush. "It's stuck." "Another truck?" Chuck asked. I pulled, but whatever it was had roots twined all around it. Settling my feet as well as I could, I gave one swift yank. I pulled free, and I went rolling off onto the ground. I just lay there, looking at what I had found. It was all rusty and full of pits, but it was something. At least it used to be something. It was about 1 foot long, shaped like a small shovel. There was a lot of dirt inside the handle. I didn't know what it was, but I knew for sure it didn't blow in from the garden. It had been knotted up deep in those roots for a long time. "It's just a broken-off piece of something," Alex said, turning it over in his hand. "Maybe some Viking left it," Chuck said. "Maybe," I told him. I mean, why not? Those Vikings sail just about everywhere else. Why not Lake Michigan? "Maybe it's a Viking tool of some kind," I said, just to keep him going. "Let's see if there's more." "A sword!" Chuck yelled. "I want a sword. I want a sword they chopped people up with." We started tearing off roots and digging like madmen. The dirt smelled clean, not like the garbage did at noon. It had that good smell, like after a hard rain. I'll go get a shovel from the basement, Alex said. I bet there'll be dinosaur bones, too, and he flashed across the backyard like a kid in an ad for Keds. Chuck and me started digging with our hands, lifting out dirt and pushing root branches aside. Are you running away to China? A voice above us asked. Alex looked up and groaned. Alicia, I said. She smiled sweetly like nothing had happened. That was some stupid thing to say in class, I told her. Thanks a whole lot. This is our yard, and we found something in it, Chuck said. Who are you? Alicia, she told him. I'm Sam's friend. She grinned like she just won a big chess game or something. Oh, I don't know, she said to me. I expect it wasn't stupid at all. I was just taking your advice, and it worked. They started talking to me after school. How did you know I was here? I asked her. Wally told me, she said. But you know, he really is shy. I wasn't exactly crazy about Alicia coming up and saying she was my friend and all, but nobody was looking, and how often do you find treasure under a tree anyway? Look, it's got to be ages old, I bragged. I held the rusty pipe thing up for her to see. She took it, turned it around in her hands a few times, and shrugged her shoulders. It doesn't look like much. Then she leaned over and looked closer at the hole. Can I help? I'm practically a professional digger. I found a silver treasure today. She sat down on the grass and showed Chuck the handful of coins. We don't even know what we're looking for, I told her. She sat there smug, like she knew a secret. I found something of yours, she said finally, taking a piece of paper from her purse and flapping it at me. It was the old creative twister paper. I grabbed it, stuffed it in my pocket, and said, It's just doodling, it's nothing. But by the way she smiled, I knew she'd read over it and figured out I was Dumbhead Sam. Alex arrived with the shovel. At first Chuck and Alex took turns fighting over who was to dig. I turned away from Alicia and watched them unearth a few night crawlers. When the ground got harder, they decided to turn the shovel over to me. The hole was crowded. Alex and Chuck wanted to stay down where the action was, but I made it hard to move the shovel. Roots and kids and me, that was a lot for one hole. I kept whopping one of them with the handle or raining dirt down their necks. Alicia ordered them out, but they stayed put. She didn't say anything to me. Maybe we'll find gold, Alex said. Or oil, I told him, feeling better just thinking about finding something. Or just more roots, Alicia said matter of fact. Clink. The shovel hit something. Watch out, you'll break it, Chuck yelled. I bet it's the sword. It didn't sound like metal, but it didn't sound like a root either. We all three clawed around it with our fingernails. Chuck pulled it out. It was just a rock covered in dirt. Alex, get some water, fast. We'll wash it, I said, to get him out of the hole, and he sprinted off again. While he was gone, we dug up a smooth stone about a fist size, with one end cracked off. It was another dinosaur egg, I yelled, and Chuck threw a fistful of dirt at me. Every spade I turned had something in it. Pretty soon we had a whole pile of rocks and junk. When Alex came with the water, we stuck everything inside and put our hands in. We tried to swoosh it around and scrub the dirt off. The muddy water spilled over onto Alex's already gray sneakers. Alicia pulled the first thing out of the pail, and for the first time she got excited. I think it's part of a pot, she said. See how smooth it is? You mean a top, don't you? Alex asked, giggling and giving me a poke in the ribs. He was going to beat that joke to death and bash a hole in my side while he did. Alicia gave me a questioning look, and I shoved Alex over into the tree branches. Who tracked mud in my kitchen? Mrs. Glass was standing behind us. Did she see me shove her kid? She said it like she was saying hello, not like she wanted to know who tracked mud in her kitchen. I guess she was used to mud. What are you doing? Maybe I should have them leave this tree out here for a few weeks instead of cutting it up tomorrow. It's better than a jungle gym. Alex, your shoes are disgusting. I'm Alicia Bliss, Alicia said, holding out her hand, but it was muddy wet, so she and Mrs. Glass both just looked at it. I'm Sam's very good friend. Oh, Sam, you've got a girlfriend, Mrs. Glass said, snickering like she was in the 6th grade. Alex and Chuck started showing her the stuff we'd found. Hey, she said, this looks great. I love the little metal scoop, and that does look like the part of an old pot. She kind of bounced up and down. I'll tell you what, we'll call the paper. We'll make them come over and take our picture. And maybe, anyway, somebody there can tell us where we can find out what this stuff is. It's Viking stuff, Chuck told her, Sam said. Fancy that. I love it. I absolutely love it. Sam, you run in and call the paper, will you? Then her face fell. Oh, I forgot. You can't. Alicia looked startled, like she was surprised somebody else knew. Mrs. G started in toward the house. Look, you kids stay out of my kitchen, will you? Burrow around under the roots some more. You keep dirt outside, and I'll call the editor of the News Advertiser right now. I met him yesterday, she called over her shoulder. We didn't find much while she was gone. Some chips of rock we saved in the bucket. They didn't look like anything, but we sure found a bunch of them. Listen, Mrs. Glass called as she ran toward us, pushing the hair out of her eyes. I've been on the phone all this time. Everybody said I should talk to somebody else. What a hassle. The editor wasn't too hot about sending somebody out to take a picture. He said he had 1,000,000 storm pictures already. So I brought a Polaroid out. Flop over in the branches and smile. We smiled and then watched the picture develop into leaf green and dirt brown. We looked like mud-caked soldiers, camouflaged to hide in the sideways tree behind us. Anyway, she went on, he said for me to call the Historical Society, which was a pretty smart idea, but of course nobody was there this late. So I called the Randall University number and they transferred me to the archaeology department. And there was this one woman still there. So I told her we had found some Viking artifacts under an ancient tree in our backyard. Viking? Alicia yelped. You're kidding. You really told her that? I moaned. I doubt it's really Viking stuff. Oh, me too, Mrs. Glass sighed. But who's going to come and look if I say it's a bunch of broken stones and an old rusty pipe? Besides, Chucky said that's what you said. She smiled at me, showing her crooked teeth. I don't think this archaeologist person believed it was Viking artifacts either, but she did say she'd stop by on her way home. We don't have anything to lose. Sam, take my picture with the tree, she said, handing me the camera. Did you find anything else good? She asked us as I took the picture. You moved your mouth, Chuck said. Oh, well then take another. She smiled without showing her teeth for the picture. I've got to leave now, Alicia said. Then she lowered her voice. Mrs. Bird was looking for you after school, she whispered to me. She was mad you didn't wait. Come on, kids. Sam wants to talk to his girl, Mrs. Glass said to them, laughing. I just thought you ought to know, Alicia went on. Mrs. Bird is going to call your parents about you. I heard her tell Miss Meredith, and I thought I should warn you. She looked at me hard to see how I was taking it, so I didn't flinch. They're not home, I told her. She sighed like she was terribly, terribly worried about me. That's something, I guess. Now, Sammy, if you ever want to know how to spell anything or read anything, even the simplest little words, I'll be glad to help. I'm so sorry. She cooed like I was a 3-year-old. I could have smacked her, like I was a 3-year-old. Look, just buzz off, I said, mad. I don't need any help from you or anybody else. She stood there looking for a minute like I had smacked her one. And you sure don't need to feel sorry for me, I went on. I can take care of myself. Oh, she said, and then smiled brightly. You're upset because I know you can't spell, aren't you? Don't worry, I won't tell. I think you're cute. She turned and skipped out the driveway.